Our planet is warming at an unprecedented rate. This is not a future prediction. It is our present reality unfolding before our very eyes. We are witnessing a change unlike any other in human history. A change with the power to reshape our world in ways we can scarcely imagine. The delicate balance of Earth's climate system is being disrupted, and the consequences are far-reaching, affecting every corner of the globe. Understanding climate change is not merely an academic exercise. It's a matter of survival for countless species, including our own. The data is clear and the evidence is overwhelming. The very air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, all are intricately connected to the Earth's climate. These elements of life are under threat. As the planet warms, these life-sustaining systems are being pushed to their limits, struggling to cope with the rapid changes. We are witnessing more frequent and intense heat waves, droughts, wildfires and storms, each event more devastating than the last. The polar ice caps are melting at an alarming rate, causing sea levels to rise and threatening coastal communities with flooding and erosion. The time for debate is over. The evidence is irrefutable and the need for action is urgent. The scientific consensus is clear. Climate change is real, it is human-caused, and it demands our urgent attention. We cannot afford to ignore it any longer. We must act now to mitigate its impacts and safeguard the future of our planet. Transitioning to renewable energy sources and sustainable practices is essential. The choices we make today will determine the fate of generations to come. It is our responsibility to ensure a livable planet for our children and their children. The Earth's climate has always fluctuated, undergoing various transformations over the eons. Over millennia, natural cycles have caused ice ages and warmer periods, shaping the world as we know it today. But the current warming trend cannot be explained by these natural cycles alone. The rapid increase in global temperatures is alarming. The rate and magnitude of change we are witnessing are unprecedented in human history. The culprit? Human activity. Our actions have accelerated these changes at an extraordinary pace. Since the Industrial Revolution, our reliance on fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas, has released massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, altering the natural balance. These gases act like a blanket around the Earth, trapping heat and causing the planet to warm. This phenomenon is known as the greenhouse effect. The more we burn fossil fuels, the thicker this blanket becomes and the warmer our planet gets. This warming leads to a cascade of environmental impacts. While natural factors play a role in climate variability, the overwhelming scientific evidence points to human activity as the dominant cause of the current warming trend. Our industrial activities, deforestation and agricultural practices all contribute to this crisis. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the leading international body for the assessment of climate change, has concluded with over 95% certainty that human activities are the dominant cause of observed warming since the mid-20th century. Our actions have consequences, and we must acknowledge our role in this global issue. We are witnessing those consequences unfold before our eyes. Extreme weather events, melting ice caps, and rising sea levels are just a few of the visible signs. The time to act is now. We must transition to renewable energy sources, reduce our carbon footprint, and support policies that protect our planet for future generations. Every action counts in the fight against climate change. To understand climate change, we must first understand the greenhouse effect. This natural process is essential for life on Earth, but human activities are intensifying it, leading to global warming. Here's how it works. Solar radiation from the sun reaches the Earth's atmosphere. Some of this radiation is reflected back into space, while the rest is absorbed by the Earth's surface, warming the planet. As the Earth's surface warms, it emits infrared radiation back towards space. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, trap some of this outgoing radiation, preventing it from escaping into space. This trapped heat warms the Earth's surface and lower atmosphere. This natural process is what makes Earth habitable. Without the greenhouse effect, the Earth's average temperature would be about -18 degrees Celsius, too cold to support life as we know it. However, human activities, primarily the burning of fossil fuels, are releasing massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, intensifying the greenhouse effect and causing the planet to warm at an alarming rate. Section 4, a world transformed impacts of climate change. The impacts of climate change are no longer a distant threat, they are already being felt around the world. From extreme weather events to rising sea levels, the consequences of a warming planet are becoming increasingly evident. We are witnessing more frequent and intense heat waves, leading to heat stroke, respiratory problems, and increased mortality rates, especially among vulnerable populations. Droughts are becoming more severe and prolonged, impacting agriculture, water resources, and increasing the risk of wildfires. Rising sea levels, a direct result of melting glaciers and thermal expansion of ocean water, are inundating coastal communities, displacing millions and threatening vital infrastructure. The increased frequency and intensity of storms are causing widespread damage, loss of life, and economic disruption. The impacts of climate change are not limited to the physical environment, they also have profound social and economic consequences. Climate change exacerbates poverty, food insecurity, and water scarcity, particularly in developing countries that are least equipped to cope with these challenges. Section 5. Unequal burdens, climate justice and responsibility. Climate justice is a crucial aspect of the broader fight against climate change, emphasizing fairness and equity in addressing the crisis. While climate change affects everyone on the planet, its impacts are not felt equally. The severity and frequency of extreme weather events such as hurricanes, wildfires, and floods are increasing, and these events disproportionately affect vulnerable populations. The concept of climate justice recognizes that those who have contributed the least to the problem of climate change are often the most vulnerable to its effects. These communities face greater risks and have fewer resources to adapt and recover. Developed nations, with their historical and ongoing reliance on fossil fuels, bear the primary responsibility for the current climate crisis. Their industrial activities have significantly contributed to greenhouse gas emissions, leading to global warming. Yet, it is developing countries, particularly those in low-lying coastal areas and regions prone to drought and extreme weather events, that are disproportionately impacted by the consequences. These nations often lack the infrastructure and resources to effectively respond to climate-related disasters. Climate justice demands that we address this inequity. It calls for a fair distribution of the benefits and burdens of climate action, ensuring that vulnerable communities are supported and empowered. Developed nations have a moral obligation to provide financial and technological assistance to developing countries to help them adapt to the impacts of climate change and transition to cleaner, more sustainable energy sources. This support is essential for building resilience and reducing vulnerability. Furthermore, climate solutions must prioritize the needs and voices of those most affected by climate change, including indigenous communities, low-income communities, and future generations. Their perspectives and knowledge are invaluable in creating effective and inclusive climate policies. Addressing climate change is not just about reducing emissions, it is about building a more just and equitable world for all. By embracing climate justice, we can create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their background or circumstances.